In Belgium, there's a small fort called Aubin. It's not one of the biggest by far. It's 10 kilometers from Eben Emael. But I want you to hear the battle story from the Second World War. It has one of the most amazing combat diaries I've ever read. And not only that, during the Second World War, after the fort had fallen to the Germans, they used it for testing of the most secret special German munitions of the time. This is a must-see and visit for any military historians. But before I spend a couple of episodes taking you through the fort and showing it to you, I want to read you the diary, the battle diary, starting on May 10th, just on the dawn of the Second World War. First, a quick overview of the fort. The fort is part of the 12 forts built to defend Liège starting from the 1880s. These forts were placed and armed so they could be mutually supporting. This was to be a key part of the defense during the coming battle. The fort here is situated on a hilltop, surrounded by a triangular ditch, with one peacetime entrance leading to and through Block B3, armed with machine guns and 47mm cannon. Block B1 and B2 are artillery blocks, armed with retractable turrets with twin 75mm guns, and Block BM, a mortar block armed with 9 81mm mortars. There are also 3 counterscarp positions, C1, C2, and C3, arranged to fire 47mm guns, machine guns, and grenade launchers along the ditches. Block C3 is outside the entrance, with the cloches armed with 47mm guns, machine guns, and searchlights, while the very important C2 was located so it would cover 2 of the long sides of the ditches with its fire. Outside the perimeter were the peacetime barracks, where the crew lived during peacetime. These, along with farmhouses surrounding the fort, were to be destroyed in case of war. Also, surrounding the fort were several individual pillboxes in the outlying fields. And the fort was of course surrounded by minefields, barbed wire, and anti-tank obstacles. The fort had a vast underground number of galleries, crew quarters, munition storages some 30 meters below the massif. At some distance past the peacetime barracks and a cemetery was Block B1, an emergency entry block and air intake, while Block BP was a peacetime entry. The fort's commander was Captain Aubin, a very well-liked commander. I'm not going to embellish or add to it or probably pronounce the location names correctly. I'm just going to read the British translation of the diary because it is one of the most amazing single war diaries I've read, and I want to share it with you. Day 1, Friday the 10th, May 1940, Fort Aubin, Commander's Logbook. I'm not kidding, it really says that. Sierra 50, radio messages received, codenamed Alfred. The duty officer opens the safe and unseals the envelope inside. Alfred. The message is authenticated. Belgium is at war. The officers call the forces of Fleron and Eben Emael. They both confirm they have received the same message. 5700 hours. The observation posts the network of bunkers around the fort. 0350, 0363, OP 296, 0368, 0369, and La Hoyt is called and put on alert. At 1, garrison starts evacuating the peacetime barracks situated on the surface and are making their way towards the inside of the fort. From now on, they will sleep 28 meters underground, deep inside the fort. At 2:32, the radio room receives the alert signal from area commander. Men ordered to their battle stations. 4:10, Bunker 0363 signals German aviation over Holland and report hearing artillery. 4:18, Bunker 363 again signals bombers are flying over Holland. 4:19, an unidentified plane is spotting flying over the fort. 4:30, Bunker 363 again reports hearing heavy fighting near Maastricht. Red flares overseen the Fortress Eben Emael. Request permission to send patrol. Authorization. is granted. 4:40. Planes overseen over Fortress Eben Emael. More red flares. 4:52. German planes fly over the fort. The fort's AA guns open fire. One Stuka is shot down. 5:06. Bunker 281 now reports numerous planes crossing the border between Germany and Belgium. 5:11. Bunker 281 again and 363 reports many planes now crossing into Belgian airspace from Holland. 5:18. Bunker 363 reports a firefight on the border between Belgium with German troops. At 5:20, Belgian troops start destroying bridges and creating obstacles to slow down the invading Germans. At 5:30, Area Commander instructs the fort to start firing at strategic locations within its area of operations to help the pre-planned destructions. 5:31, order for one of the gun turrets to engage enemies sighted near the village of Brechtal and to fire on the Tivon Bridge to destroy it. 5:37, outside peacetime barracks set on fire. Houses that are around the fort and could obstruct the fort's field of fire or shelter enemy troops or evacuated by the civilian inhabitants and destroyed with explosives. 6:56, enemy spotted at Holmesburg. One gun turret instructed to fire 50 rounds of 75mm on that objective. At 900 hours in the morning, German troops spotted at Aubin. They are getting close. 9:30, Belgian troops detonate the Valjean Bridge. A patrol leaves the fort to try to locate the whereabouts of German troops in the area. At 9:45, Germans are spotted at the Aubin train station. Commander orders 60 rounds of 75mm fired on that objective. 10:05, electricity cut off in the area. It's not a problem, the fort has its own generators. At 10:24, German columns spotted at a Merkhof crossroad. The commandant orders 50 rounds of 75mm to be fired on the objective. Coordinate transmitted to Becon Fort so it can also engage the objective with its 105 and 150mm guns. One of the bunkers of the fort near Fouron has been discovered by the enemy. The crew evacuates. 12:15, Bunker 281 no longer answers the phone. 12:24, order given to fire 25 rounds of 75 meters of Fouron bunker occupied now by the Germans. It wouldn't damage the Belgians inside, as the bunkers were built to resist shelling of up to 220mm calibers. 12:37, Germans spotted running out of the Fouron bunker they were occupying. Fort fires another 10 rounds of 75mm. 13:15, ammunition loader of gun turret B1 jammed. Engineers are working on it. 13:20, patrol signals German infantry digging in on the Aubin marketplace. Bunker 380 confirms and communicate coordinates. 25 rounds of shrapnel are fired on that objective. 13:26, patrol by volunteers wearing civilian clothes are organized. They have orders to come back to the fort once night had fallen. Only volunteers were sent out of the fort in civilian clothes, carrying fake IDs. If caught by the Germans, they were liable to be summarily executed as spies. 13:35, German troops back in the Fouron bunker. 10 rounds of 75mm are fired on the Fouron bunker. The Germans abandon it again. 13:55, the area commander requests 25 rounds to be fired on an objective near Aubin. More patrols are sent out to locate the enemy's whereabouts. 15:47, enemy spotted by a patrol near Schnollenberg Farm. They seem to be working on setting up an outpost there. 25 rounds of 75mm are fired on that objective. 16:42, enemies spotted at the Fouron post office. Mortar block order to fire 50 times 81mm bombs on that objective. 16:44, area commander communicates coordinates for the German artillery battery being set up near the Dutch border. Bunker OP 201 confirms this. At 16:53, the fort opens fire on the coordinates of the German artillery battery. Bunker OP-201 reports the 7th shell lands in the middle of the battery. So do the following ones. German artillerymen spotted running away from abandoning the destroyed cannons left behind them. At 1700 hours, German convoys sported near the Marquis Castle. 25 rounds are fired on that crossroads. Convoys sported doing a U-turn and retreating. 1730 hours, another bunker reports being under fire from the enemy. They have been spotted. 1812, orders received by the area commander to fire 20 rounds an hour on 2 important local crossroads all night long to dissuade the Germans from using them. 1837 hours, the crew of La Haute bunker arrives at the fort. They had to fight their way out of the bunker and abandon it to avoid being surrounded. 1847 hours, bunker observation post 296 signals only one man has come back from the patrol they sent out. The patrol bumped into a German patrol. A firefight erupted. No news as to what had happened to the other members of the patrol. 1852. Enemy spotted crawling 200 meters from the fort. Gun turret B2 opens fire with grape shot. The B2 block's machine gun cupola opens fire also, as do the observation cupolas Block P, the wartime entrance. Requests are sent to Balcon Fortress to covering fire around the fort with its 105 and 150 millimeter guns. 1915 hours. The patrol comes back to the fort. They lost 3 men to a firefight with German soldiers. 1940. Anti-tank Block C3 ordered to target a house at the bottom of the street where the German soldiers seem to be. 25 rounds of 47 millimeter are fired on that objective. At 2000 hours, enemy artillery batteries sported near Aubin. 50 rounds at high rate of fire are ordered on that objective. The 75 millimeter cannons inside the gun turrets had a rate of fire of 12 rounds a minute. It was possible in a short period of time to fire at a faster rate than that. The guns could be water-cooled to that effect. 2018 hours, Germans spotted in the cemetery just in front of the fort. 2019, spotters still on the fort's roof are ordered to get back inside. 2021, ordered to fire shrapnel at the 3 Chimneys crossroads where the enemy infantry have been spotted, 200 meters from the fort. 2028, a bunker calls for help. It is surrounded and engaged by the enemy. Ordered to fire 50 rounds of 75 millimeters around the bunker at a high rate of fire. 2036, mortar block fires 25 bombs at the 3 Chimneys crossroads as Block 1 reports its machine gun cupolas as being fired upon from that position. 2043, gun turrets ordered to fire shrapnel at the 3 Chimneys crossroads. Whatever was opening fire on Block B1's machine gun cupola no longer does so. 2112, a patrol comes back to the fort. The sentry at Block P opens fire when he requests the password, but the patrol does not answer. It is a tragic accident. One of the members of the patrol is killed, and another one wounded and is sent to the hospital in the underground barracks. 2130, enemy is setting up camps at the Marquis Castle. Both gun turrets ordered to fire 50 rounds on these coordinates at maximum rate of fire. 2230, urgent request arrives to fire at the Vacheron Bridge. 40 rounds of 75 millimeters are fired towards that objective. Mortar block ordered to fire 10 bombs around the fort's AA battery, situated outside the moat, to secure it. 10 rounds around the Block P, the wartime entrance, and 10 rounds in the cemetery in front of the fort. 2308, German machine gun team spotted near Decoy, the fake machine gun turret in the field opposite the fort. They engaged and neutralized by the mortar block. 2320, mortar block ordered to fire around the Decoy. One of the gun's turrets is ordered to fire on the ruins of the peacetime barracks. Aubin, Fortress Day number 2, Saturday 11th of May 1940. The war have lasted 1 day for Fortress Aubin. 0500 hours past midnight. Enemy machine guns near Block P, the wartime entrance, open fire. Machine gun cupola from B3 and automatic rifles from observation cupola from BP fire back. Enemy machine guns are silenced. At 1, Block B3, the main entrance, sees moving lights on the glasses on the edge of the moat and hears tapping noises on the outer wall. Orders are sent to head coffer C2 and gun turret block B2 to open fire with machine guns, anti-tank guns, and grape shot. The light and the tapping noises vanishes. At 1:30, a patrol comes back to the fort and reports enemy artillery batteries being set up between the villages of Aubin and Fort. The brigadier leading the patrol was killed. His crew explains the fort is slowly but surely being surrounded and it's getting difficult to get through the enemy lines. They brought back enemy weapons and artifacts to show since they had to fight their way back through. No patrols will be able to go through from this point on. On the second day of the war, Fortress Aubin is already surrounded. At 2:58, another bunker belongs to the fort has gone silent. 3:52, telephone exchange contacts the fort and explains the Germans are certainly tapping into the phone lines. The conversations must be done in Walloon, the local dialect from now on. 4:30, one of the two machine gun cupolas from the turret block of B1 reports its aiming window was broken by enemy fire, maybe a sniper, but no casualties. The little aiming window was replaced. 4:36, 50 rounds of 75mm fired on the crossroads from the nearby Vauchamps village. It's one of the main roads and is randomly shelled to keep any possible German convoys from using it. 5:07, Stukas attack the fort. Orders sent to lower both gun turrets to protect them. The explosions can be felt inside the combat blocks. The enemy uses 250 and 500 kilogram bombs. At 5:09, a bunker calls for help. It's being attacked by enemy infantry. They have one casualty killed inside the observation cupola. The junior officer inside the observation cupola is stuck inside next to his dead officer. His dead body blocks the cupola's access trapdoor. Gun turrets fire 20 rounds towards the bunker. Attack is repulsed for now. 5:27, new attacks on the same bunker. New calls for help. Another 20 rounds are fired. The enemy retreats again. 6:08, the same bunker signals the enemy is investing in a farm nearby and fires on the bunker from there. Orders to the gun turrets are given to fire 20 high explosive rounds and 10 armor-piercing rounds into the farm. 6:45, Block P signals enemy troops alongside the wall separating the block from the road. Orders are given for the mortar block to fire 15 bombs in that direction, and to the C3 anti-tank block to fire 10 shrapnel shells on the target with one of the 47mm guns. The target is eliminated. The bunker that was attacked several times that morning has gone silent. 2 bunkers are left still in action. One is being fired upon. 7:15, enemy infantry spotted trying to get close to Block O, observation post. Auxiliary air take as well. Gun turrets engage them with the 75mm guns. The enemy soldiers start running and are mowed down by one of the machine guns from Cupola B3. 8:31. Fort is under heavy shelling now. Enemy battery spotted. The turrets stay lowered. Call for help to Fortress Baptiste to engage the enemy batteries. Coordinates passed along. Baptiste engages the enemies with counter battery fire and hits the target. 1 gun destroyed. The others are abandoned by the Germans as they try to evacuate their dead and wounded from the position. 9:03, Block C3, reports being engaged by a German Pak 36, a 37mm anti-tank gun, situated on top of the road near the 3 Simneys crossroads. They fire 20 rounds from the objective and silence it. Their aiming reticle was damaged during the firefight, and they had to aim looking down the barrel of the gun. 9:32, enemy assault teams spotted running towards the fort. The fort engages them, inflicting casualties and stalls the assault. 9:40. The fort is shelled by heavy calibers. Several batteries seem involved. Block B2, BM, and C3 are engaged by heavy machine gun fire. 9:50. One of the enemy batteries is spotted in a nearby quarry. Block B1 opens fire. 50 shells in that direction. The crew inside the turret, under stress, opens fire too early while the turret is still rising. The turret is out of service. Both cannons are damaged. The engineers will work in difficult conditions to repair both cannons. Both muscles are damaged. The cannons are cut and shortened. One will be back in action that night, and one the following morning, but the rate of fire is slowed down and the operational range will be shortened for that gun turret from there and onward. At 10:01, the Germans open fire on B1, B2, and B3, all with 37mm packs and 88 flak guns, situated in the Three Chimneys crossroad. Calls for help sent to Balcon Fortress, ask them to engage the enemy cannons. 10:04, Bunker 0296 signals enemy infantry 200 meters from their position. Mortar block ordered to engage them with 25 81mm bombs. The enemy launches a new infantry assault on the fort. Auto battle stations, fire at will and on sight. 10:30, enemy assault repulsed. They revert to shelling the fort. 11:15, mortar block BM signals enemy machine guns taking position near Le Hoyt, orders B2 to engage them with 50 rounds of 75mm. 12:30, enemy cannons fire at B1, spotted near the Goffard farm. Coordinates sent to Balcon Fortress so they can engage the target. Balcon will neutralize it within 20 minutes. 12:45, enemy battery spotted taking positions near Berchon. Orders sent to B2 to engage it with 100 shells of 75mm. The enemy retreats. Several dead men and horses and damaged hardware spotted on the site. Block B1 and B3 are under heavy enemy fire and shelling. The information reaches the fort that thanks to its action and the actions of the other forts of the region, the German convoys are trying to advance cross-country and do everything to avoid driving on the roads as is too dangerous to them, and it slows them down. 13:30, one of the remaining two bunkers is attacked by enemy infantry. Order to fire 25 rounds of 75mm to protect it. B2 gun turrets engage enemy guns near Le Hoyt with 50 rounds of 75mm. One of the machine gun cupolas on B2 is hit by a German 88 anti-tank round. The aim was perfect and hits the embrasure, totally destroying the machine guns and the mount. The enemy armor-piercing shell passes between the two men manning the machine guns and is stuck inside the cupola. Nobody was hurt. The embrasures consolidated with steel beams, and the gun crews will have to use an automatic rifle from now on. The machine gun cupola on Block B1 suffers the same fate. At that point in time, Aubin Fortress is on the receiving end of heavy shelling with 20 enemy rounds per minute impacting the structure. 1400, call for help sent to Baptiste Fortress. Requests sent so they can target Goffard Farm and the Canal Woods. Baptiste engages the enemy and Canal Woods at 14:30. The enemy abandons its cannons and retreats. Tries to come back and save their cannons, are under fire from Baptiste's guns again, and decide to retreat for good. They are then engaged by Aubin's own machine guns. 15:10. Koffa C1 signals the outer wall in front of the chimney block is being heavily shelled. A German spotter aircraft is seen flying over the fort and is certainly fine-tuning the enemy artillery fire, but the AA gun crews has to seek shelter inside the fort as the enemy's shelling had made their position outside the Block P too dangerous. Nothing can be done about that aircraft. 15:34, new enemy gun crews appear on the Canal Woods and the Goffard Farm. Call for support fire sent to Baptiste to engage Canal Woods and the Balcon to engage Goffard Farm. 15:51, New German infantry assault on the fort in the direction of Block P, P, and BC, and towards the fort itself on both the east and the west. Bancourt Fortress fires shrapnel shells over Block BO and BP to protect them, while Aubin engages other assault troops with machine gun fire. 1600 hours. Baptiste Fortress counter-battery fire on the Canal Woods have chased the Germans from there for the time being. Block B1 and B3 under heavy fire. 30 to 40 enemies are spotted near the Goffard farm and are engaged with machine guns. 1621. Both machine gun cupolas of Block B1 are damaged. They are patched up, but the crews will have to use automatic rifles as both machine gun mounts are out of order. 1630. Very heavy shelling. Calls sent out to other forts in the region to see if anybody can spot the enemy artillery batteries. 1700 hours. Mortar block observation cupola receives a direct hit with an anti-tank gun. One of the embrasures is damaged. No casualties. 1730. New enemy assault on the fort towards Block B1, B3. B2 fires grape shots. The mortar blocks fires 50 bombs, and B3 engages the enemy assault infantry with machine guns. 1745. Koffa C2 reports direct hit on its 47mm cannon. Bunker observation post 0352 reports being under fire, but cannot locate the point of origin of those projectiles. 1800 hours. Koffer C1 reports direct hit on its automatic rifle embrasure. It's port. 1807. Gun turret B2 is struck and cannot be lowered. The numerous glancing blows is incurred, creating grooves on its flanks that prevents it from being lowered. The crew finally manage to lower it manually. Then the engineers get to work, removing the grooves with blowtorches. 1811. Bunker 0352 reports being surrounded and under fire from all sides. New enemy infantry assault on the fort, and both gun turrets currently out of order. Calls for help sent to Baptiste to cover fire. 1820. Bunker 0352 have gone offline. 1845. Direct hits on one of the guns inside the B2 turret. Impossible to repair. The whole assembly is broken. The gun embrasures condemned with armored plates and sandbags. The gun turrets will have to fight on with only one gun instead of two. To sum up that day, one gun turrets, B1, has two guns damaged, with the consequence shorter range and slower rate of fire. The second gun turret, B2, has only one gun in good order remaining in service. 1928. Baptiste calls. They have spotted and neutralized an enemy battery firing on us. HQ calls and announces Aubin Fortress is cited in today's dispatches for stubborn resistance. 20 enemy infantry assaults were repulsed that day alone. 1952. Bunker 0352 comes back online and reports light near the Tremblay slag heap. 2135. Situation back to calm. Calls to HQ to communicate situation. RE gun turrets. Request new cannons for them. It is an impossible request. 2345. Order to the mortar block to fire on all three sides of the fort randomly during the night to deter any enemy assaults. Day 3, May 12, 1940. 1:15 at night. Noise heard over C1 coffer. B1 fires a series of great shots in that direction. 1:30. Block O reports German machine gun teams being set up inside the cemetery and the ruins of the peacetime barracks. Bunker 0296 calls in. They are exhausted. They have hoisted the white flag and haven't seen anybody ever since. Requests at 4:02 sent to Baptiste Forest to fire on the ruins of the peacetime barracks. 5:36 mortar block fires interdirectional shots between Jacob Castle and the Fohn main crossroads. 50 bombs per objective. A gun turret opened fires on a convoy. The lead vehicle is damaged and the convoy blocked and is in disarray. High rate of fire on the objective ordered. 6:12 50 bombs fired by mortar block S interdirectional fire at Belgian crossroad. 7:55, C3 signals a column of 3 German soldiers on bicycles going towards the town of Osage. Order sent to B1 to fire shrapnel rounds on the objective. An order to BM to fire 81mm bombs on the La Hoyt crossroad simultaneously. The column panics and tries to do a U-turn. By doing so, they cross the fields of fire of the machine guns of Cupola B1, which opened fires, and of C3, which opened fires with its 47mm cannon. The Germans try to change direction again and are engaged with the 81mm bombs from the BM. 8:45. Columns of 100 German soldiers on horseback spotted near Aubin. Orders sent to one of the gun turrets to fire 25 rounds at the entrance of that village. 8:56. German convoys spotted on the road to Osage. They are engaged by 47mm gunfire from C3 and from machine gun cupolas. One of their lawyers catches fire. The convoy executes a hasty U-turn and drives back towards Aubin. 9:04, B3 spots some soldiers crawling in the tall grass towards the moat. Request sent to mortar block to engage them with 25 bombs. HQ calls and requests the fort send patrols out for recon. We explain we are surrounded and besieged and cannot execute the order. Multiple sightings of German planes, some flying over the fort low altitude. 9:24. German assaults against bunker 0296 despite its white flag. Mortar blocks fires 50 rounds in defense of the bunker. The bunker is offline and nobody knows if the crew is still inside. 9:30. Concentration of German soldiers on horseback spotted in Aubin again. Order sent to B1 to engage them, but one of its damaged guns stopped working. Engineers sent in urgently for repairs. Both damaged cannons in B1 can only fire low-yield charges, reducing their range further. Requests sent to Baptiste and Evanese Fort to engage the horsemen in Aubin. 9:47. Infantry spotted crawling towards the fort from the 3 Chimneys crossroad. BM fires 81mm bombs on them. BO signals rolling enemy artillery fire advancing towards block B1. 11:07. C3 spots something moving in the cemetery. Mortar block fires 25 rounds in that direction. 12:02. B3 signals artillery battery advancing towards Applebaum Farm, where they seem intent on setting up. 50 rounds of 75mm are fired on the objective. The Germans retreat. Probably artillery spotters seen inside the farm. 10 rounds of 75mm fired on that objective. The enemy retreats for good. 12:27. Infantry spotted coming towards the fort from the 3 Chimneys crossroad. They are engaged by one of the 4 47mm guns. C3 and machine guns. B2 start back and forth rolling artillery barrage on the position. 12:43. The one cannon inside the B2 turret breaks down, just as the cannons in B1 turrets are repaired. Engineers sent to B2. The B2 cannon will be repaired by 12:50. It was the firing pin. 12:59. Baptiste Fortress signals German convoys heading towards the fort. It is out of their range. They communicate the fire coordinates to us. Orders sent to B2 to fire 20 rounds of the objective. 13:25. German spotters laying in the grass, trying to cut through the barbed wire, immediately engaged with machine guns. 13:30. HQ calls in for reports. Announce Aubin Fortress will be mentioned in the daily dispatches again for its resistance. The second machine gun cupola B2 had been damaged, and the machine gun has to be replaced by an automatic rifle. One of the 2 47mm cannons of the C3 is out of action and is replaced by an automatic rifle also. The engineers will manage to repair the cannon by 7:50 that night. 13:51. Men spotted trying to cut through the networks of barbed wire around the fort. They are engaged. C3 reports being engaged by anti-tank guns out of the field of fire. BM engages the cannon with 25 bombs and 81 mm and neutralizes it. B1 reports having taken a direct hit by an 88 mm gun. Optics destroyed. Engineers called in to replace the optics. 1418. Baptiste requests we observe the effect of its artillery on an enemy position and communicate them coordinate corrections if necessary. 1437. BO signals 3 heavy cannons pulled by horse on the Vassage road between the towns of Vassage and Bernot, going towards the town of Fort. Orders sent to gun turrets to fire 50 rounds of 75 mm on that convoy at maximum rate of fire possible. 1449. HQ calls back in. German troops spotted on the road near Vassage. We engaged them with a mortar block. Block P signals a machine gun fires on its observation cupola, as well as on Block C3. The enemy machine gun seems very close. They guess the whereabouts of the enemy machine gun team and fires from B2 4 shrapnel rounds in that direction. The machine gun goes silent. 1530. Baptiste Fortress calls in. German convoys spotted at Hagelstein. Gun turrets ordered to fire 50 rounds in that direction. 1550. BP signals heavy shelling falling very close to the fort. The enemy battery seems to be near Reichel. We call Evigny Fort to communicate this information. They are able to spot the artillery battery and engage it for us. Enemy mortar teams spotted in the cemetery. Call for help sent to Baptiste. They start firing on the cemetery. 1600 hours. Enemy artillery now falls on the fort. The 2 gun turret blocks seem their main target of this barrage. A sentry spots the muzzle flash from the German cannon. They seem to fire from between Bernot and Fort. One of the gun turrets opened fire in that direction. Perfect aim. We can observe a violent flash and black smoke. They have certainly hit the ammo crate. 50 rounds of 75 mm ordered on that objective. 1645. B1 gun turret hit by another 88 mm armor-piercing shell. 1706. The fort engages another heavy enemy battery spotted thanks to their muzzle flashes. Baptiste communicates us the coordinates of another enemy battery firing on us. Passes on those coordinates to another fort so it too can fire on that objective on our behalf. 1754. Heavy enemy shelling. BP spots muzzle flash on the Moutron-Blomhaven road. BM fires 50 bombs on that coordinate. 1808. Block O signals a lorry column going towards Fort. Gun turrets ordered to fire 25 rounds at the entrance of the Fort village. 1840. Several enemy planes spotted. HQ calls in to see how we're holding on. 1941. B3 signals cows on the glasses near the moat. It can only mean one thing. Barbed wire have been cut or damaged by the shelling. Germans spotted trying to enter a small abandoned bunker in the valley in front of the fort. Order sent to B2 to fire on the bunker with 25 rounds of 75 mm. 2000 hours. B2 signals anti-tank obstacles near its position have been damaged by the enemy shelling. Order for a team to be sent to get ready to mine the breach as soon as darkness sets in. That is a dangerous job. It is outside the moat and outside the outer walls. Requests sent to Baptiste Fortress to fire at Canal Woods and on the ruins of the peacetime barracks. Ordered BM to fire on those same ruins with 50 rounds of 81 mm. Order sent out to engineers to do maintenance on guns inside gun turrets as soon as possible. 2023. Order sent to all blocks. From now on, every night, from dusk till dawn, the mortar block has to fire on all 3 sides of the fort at a rate of 30 rounds per hour. All machine guns to random fire a couple of rounds through their fields of fire every 10 minutes, and gun turrets ordered to randomly fire grape shots in random directions. This set of orders will hopefully deter the Germans from trying to approach the fort at night. 2040. BO spots muzzle flashes near the Fort of Eben Emael, along the Albert Canal. Here's heavy gunfire. It's not for us. Coordinates noted and sent to the HQ. 2350. BP signals. It can see two German teams coordinating their positions by firing flares. Mortar block order to fire on both with 30 rounds of 81mm. Day 4, May 13th, 1940. 1:20. Movement seen near the Three Chimneys crossroad. B2 fires 25 rounds in that direction. Call to Baptiste Fortress to open fire on the crossroad. 1:35. B2 fires 25 shrapnel rounds towards Las Tabelles. Mortar fire on the farm, which is along the road leading from Passage to the fort. Calls to Baptiste to let them know lights are being seen with the Alzot and the St. Gilles woods near Fort. 1:45. Enemy infantry spotted trying to get close to Block P. Mortar block fires 25 rounds of 81mm, and Block C2 fires 25 rounds of 47mm in that direction. At 2, Block B2 is being shelled by the enemy, but the rate of fire is slow and the caliber is small. 4:30. Movement spotted on the massif itself. The roof of the fort. B2 guns, turret fire. 25 scrape shots round over the massif. The 47mm guns defending the moat are ordered to fire over the massif by ricochet, by aiming at the outer wall. The gunners could bounce a shell against it and send it flying over the massif itself. All three mortars from the mortar block ordered to trail a rolling fire all along the outer walls and in depth. 4:50. Enemy shelling intensifies. 5:04. Block O calls in and signals muzzle flashes amongst the ruins of the peacetime barracks. Order sent to the mortar block to fire 25 rounds on that objective. Calls to Baptiste to request they engage the objective also. 5:45. The enemy shelling is becoming frighteningly intense. The vibrations are felt within the fort itself, 35 meters underground. Messages received from HQ. Reply sent. We are resisting well. The fort has fired 4,376 shells of all calibers in the past 3 days. 6:53. Messages sent to Baptiste asking for fire on the Kaiser's farm, which is where one of the enemy batteries is estimated to be. Baptiste replies they are also being shelled. 7:49. Block B3 reports many anti-tank obstacles and barbed wires have been destroyed by the German shelling. Block O reports the rate of German shelling on the fort is slowing down. Orders is sent to all sentries to get back to their battle stations. Risk of an enemy infantry assault is imminent. 8:36. Block B1 reports Germans seem to be fortifying the Velkem's farm. Order to fire 50 rounds of 81mm mortar bombs and 75mm shells on that objective. Request sent to Baptiste to try and provide counter-battery fire for us in the Saloy region. 9:22. Muzzle flashes reported near Aubin and Riquel. HQ informed of the situation. At 10. Block P signals important convoy. On the Morton-Beaumain road, 25 rounds of 75mm are fired in that direction. B1 and B2 gun turrets also opened fire on the Velkman farm. 12:06. Block P signals enemy convoy on the Beaumain-Vassage road traveling towards the Netherlands. Order sent to the gun turrets to engage the convoy with 75 rounds. 13:55. German tanks spotted on the Beaumain-Vassage road. 25 rounds are fired in that direction. The tank is damaged and tries to turn around and go towards Bernau. It moves slowly. 25 more rounds of 75mm are fired on the objective. The tank stopped moving. 14:31. 50 rounds of mortar shells are fired on the hills crossroad where the enemy movement was spotted. Enemy infantry spotted assembling near Beaumain. 100 rounds of 75mm are fired on that position to harass them. HQ requests a report. Reply sent. We resist well. Hardware is repaired and functioning. 1600 hours. Block C1 reports. An unexploded shell is only yards away from its gun port. Caliber estimates around 150 millimeters. 1636. The Germans are shelling the fort once again. 1726. BP reports lorries traveling at high speed on the Bloemhaven Motor Road. Order sent to the mortar block to fire 50 rounds on the road to stop the enemy from using it. 1840. Block O reports Maschinen seems to be shelled by very heavy German calibers. 1854. Block P reports very intense shelling near Rechel. A lot of smoke is observed. Muzzle flashes near Dahlem. Enemy seen trying to set a command post at the Schmitz farm. B1 fires 25 rounds on the farm. 2015. Infantry spotted near the Regno Castle. BM fires 25 mortar bombs in that direction. Report sent to the HQ. Good morale amongst the crew. The fort's concrete resists well to the enemy's shelling, which is estimated to be 220 in caliber. 8:45. Order sent to mortar block to fire 50 rounds on the Fort Mountain crossroads, where the enemy troops have been spotted. 2107. Muzzle flashes spotted near the Remstal train station. 100 rounds of 75 millimeters are fired in that direction. Enemy shelling has damaged our antenna. Phone calls to Batiste to request they inform HQ of the situation. Repairs will be carried out on the antenna as soon as it is safe to send somebody on the massif roof. 2152. German machine guns open fire from the cemetery. Order is sent to gun turrets from C3 block to fire 25 rounds on the cemetery. 2200. Antenna repaired. The engineers, Sergeant Elias, crawled out on the roof and repaired the antenna under enemy fire. 2212. German white flares fires above Block 3. Gun turrets ordered to fire grape shells over a 360-degree arc. 2245. Gun turrets and mortar blocks open fire on the edges around Block P, where German machine gunners are spotted. 2320. All machine guns ordered to fire low over their respective arcs and fire in order to dislocate any possible German intruders. Machine guns and 47mm guns and coffers ordered to fire to clear the moat of any possible intruder. 2350. Observation cupola and mortar block repaired. One of the embrasures were severely damaged by a direct hit from an anti-tank gun. The engineers placed an armor plate with an opening over the damaged embrasure. Day 5. Tuesday the 14th of May, 1940. 001. One of the block's B1 machine gun cupolas report being under fire from a German machine gun hiding amongst the anti-tank obstacles surrounding the moat. One of the soldiers in the cupola is wounded to the head by shrapnel. Order sent to mortar block BM and B1 gun turret to neutralize the threat. 030. One of the sentries in the mortar block observation cupola is wounded by enemy fire. All 3 mortars fire over 360 degrees to try and suppress the threat. An 88 armor-piercing shell penetrates inside the cupola without touching or wounding anybody and embeds itself in the opposite wall. As the crew evacuates the cupola, another shell penetrates. The cupola embrasure will be repaired with an armor plate before it can be reused. 037. Enemy infantry rushes towards flanking coffer C1. BM opens fire with 10 81mm rounds of mortar. Lights are being seen all around the glasses. That's the area around the dry moat, beyond the outer walls. All of the fort's machine guns open fire. A dead German soldier hangs over the wall in front of the main entrance block, B3. 135. Block P signals lights on the Lavez farm and the machine guns heard on the cemetery. Orders sent to mortar block to fire 2 rounds on the cemetery and B2 to engage Lavez with 4 rounds. The gunners overshoot the farm. They correct their aim and fire again. This time they hit the farm where the lights vanish. At 200 hours, P signals it is under fire from the former AA gun emplacements just on the other side of the road. Order sent to BM to fire 20 rounds on that emplacement. Order sent to B2 to fire 4 rounds on the harrowing farm, 20 rounds on the Bernu crossroads, and 25 rounds on the Goffert farm where the headlights had been sighted. 700 hours in the morning. The fort is being shelled again. Muzzle flashes observed near the clocher mission. The officers look at a map and guess the emplacement of one of the German batteries near the mansion. Fire coordinates sent to both gun turrets. Order to fire 100 high explosive rounds and 25 shrapnel rounds in that direction. Objective neutralized. The shelling of the fort ceases. 7:36. BM fires towards the Foron-Saint Martin crossroads and the rail tracks near Hottengoven to harass the possible enemy movements. 7:45. The fort is being shelled again. One big hit every 5 minutes. One enemy round lands on top of the mortar block, but the structure holds up. Report sent to HQ. 8:55. Muzzle flashes spotted near Vion. B2 fires 50 shrapnel rounds in that direction. 9:45. German infantry spotted near the Kulin farm. 10 mortar rounds fired on that group. HQ calls in. All forts, 11 out of 12, are resisting the enemy. Congratulations on the hard battle being fought. 10:50. German convoy spotted near the Croix de Pierre crossroads. In Baptiste, info relay to Baptiste, Aubin engages the target with 50 rounds of 75mm. 12:45. Enemy seems assembling near Charon. Gun turrets fire 50 rounds on that position. The Germans retreat. 13:33. The enemy tries to assemble near Charon again, and is again engaged with the fort's 75mm guns. The fort receives a telegram. It is encrypted and cannot be deciphered. It is deemed to be fake, sent by the Germans. HQ had warned about this. 14:10. Tanks and armored vehicles are seen on the Moulins-Biacnot road. 50 rounds are fired on the objective. 15:10. German artillery batteries spotted being deployed near the Schmidt farm. It is engaged immediately with 50 rounds of 75mm. Machine gun cupola of the B3 block is being engaged by anti-tank guns. 15:50. BM observation cupola is being engaged by anti-tank guns. P signals enemy firing on the fort from Valde. BM fires 40 rounds at the enemy. Enemy fire ceases. 16:50. German convoy spotted on the Schmidt farm. 25 rounds of 75mm sent in their direction. The enemy retreats. B2 engages the Werkmann's farm with 25 rounds of 75mm. The farm explodes. It was certainly being used by the Germans as an ammo dump. 17:15. Several German planes fly over the fort. 17:20. HQ sends a list of instructions. If the fort has fired all its shells of one particular type of gun, it has to send the crews towards the fort of Namur. Crew members are travel dressed as civilians to try to break the siege. Every gun that runs out of ammunition must be destroyed. Every fort should have a team commanded by an officer ready to defend the moat against infantry assaults should the walls be breached. 1847. Block O spots a convoy driving near the Three Pines Trees crossroad. 50 rounds fired on the convoy. 1900 hours. BM spots a convoy on the Montrond road. 25 mortar rounds fired on the objective. 1935. The fort's gun turrets engage German infantry near the Foron crossroads. 1947. Block O signals intense enemy aircraft along the Dutch border near the Three Pines Trees crossroads. Information relayed to Baptiste Fort and to HQ. 2020. The fort shoots down another plane that was flying low over the site. 1947. German convoy observed near the Dutch border is now near Wildhus and is under fire from Pointis Fort. Aubin observes and corrects the coordinates for Pointis. 2200 hours. BM fires at mortars over 360 degrees around the fort to protect it against the enemy infiltrations. 2300, a searchlight suddenly illuminates B1. BM fires 17 rounds in the direction of the searchlight until it goes off. 2340, red flares observed near one of the fort's bunkers. The guns open fire in the direction of the flare. BM fires 60 rounds over 360 degrees around the fort. Day 6, Wednesday the 15th, May 1940. 030 messages sent to HQ. Received multiple coded telegrams. Key not working. Block P. Signals red flare seen in the direction northwest. Headlights seen near Versailles. 047. Both gun turrets open fire. Grape shots. Firing a 360-degree arc. Both flanking coffers request to fire 47mm shrapnel shells over the massive roof by bouncing the shells ricochets against the outer walls. 0130 mortar blocks order to fire 25 rounds per tube, 3 tubes in total, on all sides of the glacis, the outer perimeter. Coded telegram received, impossible to decipher it. 0435 Block O sights a convoy on the Three Pines Road. B2 open fires with 20 rounds. Convoy scatters. 510 another coded telegram, impossible to decipher it received. BO detects another convoy with infantry escort. 20 rounds of 75mm are fired in its direction. 0540. Block O spots a large convoy on the Moulin-Fouan Road, composed of horse-drawn carriages and trucks. Gun turrets ordered to engage with 40 rounds. The column is hit and scatters. The German leaves dead and wounded horses behind. 6:35. Another convoy spotted. 40 rounds fired upon it. 6:55. Contacts HQ regarding coded telegrams that are impossible to decipher. 8:12. Convoy spotted again on the Moulin-Fouan Road. B2 ordered to fire 50 rounds at maximum rate of fire. Several lorries are hit and block the road. 10:24. Gun turret B1 opens fire on German infantry spotted near the Relon Castle. 12:50. German cavalry spotted near Moulin. B1 engages the objective with 25 rounds of 75mm. 14:04. A German convoy tries again to force its way through the Moulin Road, engaged with 25 rounds. 15:15. German sappers spotted repairing the Bionneau Bridge. 40 high-explosive rounds of 75mm fired on the position and bridge. Target hit and destroyed. 16:15. German convoy still trying to cross the Moulin-Fouan Road. 25 rounds of 75mm fired on the road. 16:40. Block O spots German artillery battery being set up near the Breno railway crossing. Order to immediately engage it with 50 rounds of 75mm. Orders also sent to the gun turrets to destroy the Goffard farm with 50 rounds. 18:02. Block O spots horses, German infantry, near the farm in Versailles. It looks like orderlies tending to officers' horses. 10 rounds are fired on the farm, which catches fire. Calls Betis to warn them that a military column is heading their way from Tirignan. 1910. One of the 47mm cannons that have been damaged in C3 is repaired. Both engineers, Edon and Goffard, are cited for having worked tirelessly to keep the fort's machinery and armaments running in good order, even when working under enemy fire. 2000 hours. German troops spotted near the ruins of Weckmann's farm. 10 rounds of 81mm mortar bombs and 10 rounds of 75mm shells were fired on the objective. 2040. 50 rounds of 75mm are fired on the Fouan crossroads upon spotting troops trying to cross it. 2310. Both Block O and Block P reports German machine guns are being set up in the ruins of the peacetime barracks and on the road leading to the cemetery. BM ordered to fire 10 rounds on each target. Day 7. Thursday the 16th, May 1940. At midnight to 6 in the morning, mortars and gun turrets fired random times around the glacis to deter any German movements in the close proximity of the fort. At 0600, B2 signals the blinds of the Three Chimneys farm are all closed. They are opened yesterday evening. Suddenly, Block B2 is fired upon by a 37mm Pak near the farm. The gun turret fires 10 rounds on the farm and around it. German Pak is silenced. 10:15, Bunker's observation post NV5 is surrounded and ran out of munitions. They call to announce that they are surrendering. The commander congratulates them on a job well done. They have provided the fort with a mine of information on the whereabouts of the German troops in very difficult conditions. Out of ammunition, they surrender. The fort reports to the HQ that at this time 6,658 rounds of artillery have been fired since May 10th. At 1100 hours, Colonel Modat, the area commander HQ, calls all the forts and encourages them to keep on resisting. 11:54, Block P calls. They have 3 Germans bearing a white flag are coming towards the block's entrance. They have what looks like 3 hostages with them. The commandant accepts to see them only if they release the 3 hostages, which the Germans do straight away. The fort's doctor leaves the fort and comes back with a German colonel and a captain. The German colonel tells the fort's commandant, "Captain Dantin, you have fulfilled your duty, but show some humanity towards your men and cease the combat and surrender your fort. Your efforts are as magnificent as they are useless. You have 1 hour to reflect on this. Hoist a white flag on the fort should you wish to surrender." Captain Aubin answers was as follow: "You are like me, an officer. You know officers must honor their pledge. I pledged to defend this fort until the end. The answer is no." Upon this, the German colonel shook hands with the fort's commandant and said, "I understand." As the German officers departed, the fort's officers expected the fort to be shelled or bombed, as they had refused to surrender. Both gun turrets subsequently received the order to stay eclipsed, down. The order was given to all troops to remain in the lower level of their combat blocks, with only sentries allowed to remain in their positions in casemates and cupolas. 13:25, message sent to HQ relating the encounter with the 2 German officers. Reply received was admired and approved. B1 relates that 7 planes have just released bombs on the fort. No visible damage. 15:30, 50 rounds of 75mm fired on Muldoon Crossroads and 50 rounds of 81mm mortar bombs fired on Fauron Crossroads. 16:14, B3 calls in. A lot of horses detected near the Muldoon farm. 25 rounds are fired on the objective. Several planes are spotted flying over the fort. Infantrymen and 2 horsemen, officers, seen traveling on the Vassage Crossroads. Gun turrets and mortar blocks ordered to engage with 25 rounds. 17:45, Block P spots infantry near Aubin. The Germans are immediately engaged with 25 rounds of 75mm. 18:12, Block O spots another plane overflying the fort. Block P reports a lot of infantry in Bombay village. Gun turrets order to fire 100 rounds on the village. 1910, German infantry trying to evacuate the Bombay are shot on sight by the fort's 75mm guns. Message to HQ, everything under control. 7,854 rounds of all calibers fired so far. P spots another 10 planes flying over the fort. 20:05 hours, Shore Farm engaged with 25 rounds after some activity was detected. 21:30, 50 rounds sent to the Moulin Crossroads and 50 on the Vidnus Crossroads to prevent any German traffic. BM fires 75 mortar bombs on the glacis to secure the fort's perimeter. 2300 hours, 50 rounds of 75mm at random on various crossroads and strategic points in the region to prevent German traffic. The old refurbished fortress of Bonchel fell today. Seeing that there was no way of carrying the fight after most of its means of defense were destroyed by heavy shelling, and the fort's commandant authorized his crew to slip out of the structure by a hidden emergency exit and stayed behind with a handful of volunteers. He died alongside his number 2 during the final German assault on his fort. The old Flamal fortress surrendered after having been bombed to oblivion by the Luftwaffe. There are now 9 forts out of 12 still holding the line. It is day 8, Friday the 17th of May 1940. 01. More German planes fly over the fort. B-1, B-2, C-1, C-2, and the BM fire randomly around the fort to secure perimeter. 01:45. Activities spotted near the Vassange Bridge. German sappers may be trying to repair it. 25 rounds of 75mm fired in that direction. 08:05. Increased vigilance at the sentry stations. Heavy mist. 08:50. Block P. BM detects muzzle flashes in the mist near Machin. 25 rounds of 25mm fired on those coordinates. Enemy artillery battery is neutralized. 10:27. German lorries spotted near the Three Chimneys crossroad. They're trying to load some cattle on board. B-2 opens fires with its guns and machine guns. Both lorries are destroyed. 14:34. German convoy, motorbikes, spotted on the road. Vichy, Yulmo. 25 rounds of 75mm fired on the crossroads ahead of them. 17:42. BM spots an artillery battery near Yulmo. Battery neutralized with 50 rounds of 75mm. 1940. Phone lines with Baptiste Fortress are cut. 21:20. Mortar blocks fires 10 rounds per side. The fort is a triangle in shape, so the glasses to secure it. C1 and C2 fire 5 47mm rounds per side to secure moat. 21:22. Radio report on the current situation sent to HQ. 22:38. Another artillery battery spotted near Yulmont and neutralized. Radio contact with Baptiste Fortress is established. 23:40. Coded telegram received from HQ, impossible to decipher. Fleuron Fortress fell today. The commandant ordered the evacuation of his crew after the fort's heavy guns and communication centers. Ventilation systems were damaged during the German bombing and shelling. When the German gave the assault, the fort was undefended. Chaudfontaine surrendered after a heavy German bombing followed by assault caused mass casualties inside the structure. Embor Fort on the opposing ridge also surrendered after being under heavy attacks and having its gun turrets knocked out of action. Chaudfontaine and Embor have worked well together, often firing on each other across the valley to help repel German infantry assaults. There are now only 6 forts out of 12 holding the line. 3 old refurbished ones, Pointis, Bancon, Evigny, and 3 modern ones, Aubin, Baptiste, and Tancremont. Day 9, Saturday the 18th, May 40th. 20 rounds fired across the perimeter to secure the glasses. Block P spots the German artillery battery near Yulmont, which has resumed operating. 50 rounds of 75mm fired on the battery. The Germans evacuate their position. At 10:01, 2 o'clock, and 15 past 3, mortar blocks fire 15 rounds of all directions on the glasses to secure the perimeter. At 05:45, the BM spots German artillery battery, which is now down the road, leading from Yulmont to Mortier. B2 fires 50 rounds on the objective, which is subsequently neutralized. 0600, the garrison takes advantage of the relatively calm to place 265 anti-personnel mines in fort of every breaches on the wall. The main access to the fort, postern, is also mined. Inform HQ that phone lines with Baptiste is cut and communication is done over VHF radio. Between the 16th and 18th of May, Aubin Fortress had been on the receiving end of about 1,000 tons worth of German shells and bombs. The outer walls, facing east near Koffer-Ciel, looks like in bad shape. The glacis and the massif are covered with craters. rubble and soil start accumulating in the dry moat. For the first time since the 10th of May, the garrison is able to take the rubbish out as well as the buckets used as toilets, which are in every combat block. 0940, Block B3, the main entrance, is on the receiving end of direct hits coming from the direction of Belgian. The hits are regular and always at the same place. The Germans will target that one spot for over 24 hours, leaving a crater over a meter deep in the block. 1118, a German column composed of motorbikes, tanks, and lorries is seen traveling in the direction of Julmont. Gun turrets ordered to target the Huisnes crossroads and the Saint-André crossroads to try and intercept the convoy. A lot of planes are spotted flying at high altitude, inform HQ about the risk of aerial attack in the region. 1155, traffic is seen between Julmont and Bombay. Mortar block fires 50 bombs on the Colliers crossroad to try to disrupt it. 1347, B1 spots some German activity near the Coolant farm. 10 rounds of 75mm fired in that direction. Telegram received from Bacon. The Germans have requested they surrender. Block O sees a German gun near the Afne crossroad. BM fires 25 bombs on the coordinate. 1545, another telegram received from Fort Bacon. They cannot decipher it. Bacon seems to be on the brink, and the Germans seems to be preparing an assault on the fort here. 50 rounds fired in that direction in the hope it might provide some cover fire or support. Pontis Fort is called to the rescue, but is off the air. 1656, sentries detect a German battery. 50 rounds of 75mm ordered on that objective. Strong explosions and secondaries. Batteries and munitions stores destroyed. German artillerymen are seen running away. 1702, Block C3 warns us vehicles are seen at the Three Chimneys crossroads. C3 engages the convoys with its 47mm gun, but the gun malfunctions after 12 rounds. B1 takes over with the 75mm gun. One lorry is destroyed. More German vehicles are spotted near La Sablière. B1 opens fire again. Several German cars are destroyed, one burns. The Germans try to escape from the convoy on foot and are engaged by the fort's machine guns. The commandant will reprimand the gun crew for having opened fire without authorization. He will immediately follow the reprimand by congratulating them on a job well done. The garrison will later learn on the German convoy was in fact a German military police unit that drove by the fort as they had been told by other German units that it had surrendered. 1945, Block B2 reports a lot of traffic on the Julmont-Montaut road. 50 rounds of 75mm are fired along the road to harass the Germans. The fort situation at this time is as follows. 2 out of the 4 75mm guns are still in operation, 1 per turret. All 3 81mm mortars are working in order. 4 out of the 5 47mm guns are working. 8,017 rounds of 75mm and 81mm have been fired by the fort so far. As for the crew, the toll is 6 dead and 15 wounded and 24 missing in action. Mainly the crews from the small bunkers of which the fort has no longer any news. 2350, 25 rounds of 75mm is fired in the vicinity of the Remdal train station after muzzle flashes were spotted in the area. The muzzle flashes disappear. The old Pontis fortress surrenders today, after having expended almost all of its ammunition. In any case, its main gun turrets were damaged and could not mount any effective defense or support its sister forts any longer. Bacon Fort fell to the Germans after heavy bombing and shelling disabled its gun turrets, and a German assault breached it. Only 4 forts out of the 12 now remains. Day 10, Sunday the 19th, May 1940. At 050, every block is ordered to drop a Mills grenade through their respective grenade ramps just in case the moat was compromised. At 0200, all blocks to fire over a 360-degree arc to secure the perimeter and over the massif, the roof, just in case. B1 detects Germans trying to fortify position within the ruins of the Velkmans farm. 25 rounds of 75mm and 25 81mm mortar bombs are fired on the objective. 0240 and 330, 10 rounds are fired on each side of the fort to secure the glasses. 0455, Germans spotted near the Velkmans farm again. 25 rounds of 75mm fired upon them. 0845, HQ requests we harass enemy activity in 2 places. 1 near the Fleuron fortress. 50 rounds of 75mm per hour are fired on both objectives. 1131, German battery fire on Epinay fort is spotted. 50 rounds of 75mm on that position. The German battery stops firing when the 12th Belgian round lands square on their position. By the 32nd round, the battery is completely destroyed. 1158, B3 spots German infantry trying to set a position near the bunker, NV-25. 50 rounds of 75mm fired on that position. 1315, German infantry spotted near a farm in Chemnitz-de-Valise. Engaged with 25 rounds 75mm. The enemy tries to escape back towards the woods. 25 rounds of shrapnel 75mm are fired on that position too. 1345, German infantry spotted on the Julmont-Montier road. Engaged with both gun turrets. 1 firing high explosives, 1 firing shrapnel. 25 rounds per gun turret. The 5th round fires explosives right on top of the column. 1415, Baptiste Fortress informs us its 75mm guns show some serious signs of fatigue. Their rate of fire is subsequently slowed down. 1943, Block O reports a tank in a lorry in front of the Bellevue Cafe near Julmont. 25 rounds of 75mm fired in that direction. As soon as the first round lands in the vicinity, the tank and the lorry escape, but German infantry suddenly appears and runs in all directions. 25 more rounds and 75mm are fired on their position to scatter them. 2110, 50 rounds per hour are fired on the Rocher crossroads to harass possible German traffic. 2135, all machine guns are ordered to fire over the glasses to secure the perimeter. 30 rounds of 81mm bombs are fired by the mortar block to that effect as well. We receive a call from Evigny. The commander says goodbye. They can no longer carry on the fight. Evigny, the last of the old fortresses, surrender today after having expanded all of its means of defense. That means only 3 forts of the 12 remain in the line: Aubin, Baptiste, and Tancamont. Monday the 20th of May, 1940, day 11. At 02, 25 great-shot rounds are fired all over the massif, just in case. The eastern wall near Block C2 is very damaged. 50 rounds of 75mm fires on Elsenor Road to harass potential German traffic. 01, all machine guns ordered to fire a couple of rounds across the fields of fire. Mortar block ordered to fire 10 rounds per side on the glasses to secure the fort's perimeter. All sentries are called to ensure they are all at their stations and awake. Encrypted telegram from HQ cannot decipher. 0225, 10 rounds of 75mm all over the massif. Red flares seen over the 3 Chimneys crossroads. White flares near Canal. German troops might be maneuvering around the fort under the cover of darkness. 0410, request HQ to send again previous telegram. BM order to fire 25 rounds of 81mm mortar bombs on each of the 3 sides of the fort. 0510, B3 is attacked. German infantry is in the moat and are launching grenades and satchel charges over the rolling bridge protecting the main entrance. One of those charges ripped the automatic rifle protecting the bridge from its mount. The automatic rifle is still working. The man manning the position opens fire again. All the machine guns of B3 are firing at will. Smoke screens all around B3, deployed by the Germans. The machine guns in the casemates overlooking the postern, the main entrance to the moat, is completely destroyed by an explosion. What remains of the Maxim machine gun and his mount is removed and an automatic rifle is used instead. Armor plating and sandbags are used to try to protect the position. The man manning the automatic rifle, covering the bridge, is wounded and replaced. The commandant actually sends a man and some volunteers up the stairs to B3 to make sure it hasn't fallen to the enemy. There's only one rolling bridge and a double set of armored doors left between the Germans and the inside of the block itself, which is the main gateway to the fort. 0557. German troops with a white flag come towards Block P. They want to parley. They have a priest from the Valjean monastery with them, and a letter addressed to the commandant, who refuses to read it. He refuses to surrender his position, or even discuss it. Orders not to fire towards Block P without authorization to protect the German troops, as they came under a white banner. Less than 30 minutes after the Germans had left, the fort is heavily shelled. 0648, Block C3 and B3 heavily targeted for more than an hour. Enemy artillery spotted near the Simon House. Both turrets authorized to engage with 50 rounds of 75mm. 655, Block P spots other two artillery pieces near bunker NV7 and near the Mouton-Vassars Road. Mortar blocks engage with 50 rounds each. 0710, one of the two observation cupolas on Block P is violently hit. A shell gets clean through one of the embrasures, the viewing ports, killing one sentry and wounding his colleague. The cupola is evacuated. Both gun turrets, Block B1 and B2, are under heavy shelling. 0720, all blocks are under intense shelling. It is getting heavier. All non-essential personnel ordered at the lower levels, as well as all the ammunition. Both gun turrets eclipsed. Only sentries are allowed to stay at their combat stations in the cupolas and casemates. Sentry in the remaining cupola in Block P spots enemy movement near the Delacour house. Mortar blocks fire 50 rounds of 81mm on the objective. 0745, the remaining cupola on Block P receives 2 direct hits and is temporarily out of order. Main air intake tube on P is damaged. The air intake tube is important as it supplies 35,000 cubic meters of air per hour to the fort's main block, galleries, and barracks. Mortar block opens fire of 50 rounds around P to defend its perimeter. Block O, an observation block, where the other air intake station of the fort is violently engaged by enemy artillery. 08, direct hit on O's observation cupola. Both sentries badly hurt. Direct hit on the air intake at O. The fort's priest is on site helping the wounded. A German shrapnel hits his helmet without wounding him. Gun turrets are authorized to open fire in the vicinity of the Notre Dame, where a German battery is thought to be. German battery near Aubin B2 engages it with 50 rounds. At 0820, another German position detected near the Montreuil crossroads, engaged by both mortar block and B2 gun turret. The commandant expects a German assault and calls Baptiste Fortress. They agree to an emergency safe word. If Aubin calls in TC Inf, it means the massive roof is overrun by German infantry. Baptiste to open fire on Aubin's fortress if it receives this call. Fire support requested from Baptiste to help shelling the German gun positions near Appelbaum. One of the 3 mortar block tubes in BM is temporarily out of action. Block O badly damaged. Cupola and air intake are evacuated. The assault is expected. Inside the fort's combat blocks, soldiers start erecting sandbags and steel beams barrage to seal the positions if needed. 9:20. One of the German gun positions fires on the fort is hit. Sentries can see German lorries evacuating their own wounded and dead from the position. When they see a tractor approaching one of the guns to try to tow it away, the tractor is fired upon. 9:50. One of the block's C-32 gun cupolas receive a direct hit fired from the 3 Chimneys crossroad. Aiming reticle of the gun is damaged. 10:20. One of the B-1's machine guns received a direct hit. It seems to have come from the coolant farm. Order sent to BM to engage it with 50 rounds. 10:25, muzzle flashes seen near the Goffman farm. BM to engage it with 50 rounds of 81 mortar bombs. 10:45, C3 opens fire with its 47mm gun on a German tank seen in the meadows. B1 engaged by a gun position that seems to be near the wood farm. Request Baptiste Fortress to engage the position. 1100 hours. German gun positions in Hechberg open fire on the fort. Fort repulses with 50 rounds of 81mm in that position. German battery is neutralized. B1 gun turret opens fire on the woods farm, but its remaining gun jams. Turret is eclipsed and engineers are called in. It will take 25 minutes for the engineers to repair the gun, after which the gun turret resumes firing on the woods. At 12, German spotter detected near the house by the Three Chimneys crossroad. 10 rounds of 75mm are fired on his position. The German shelling intensifies again. The crew can feel the reinforced concrete walls vibrate. C3 targeted by direct fire. BP under heavy shelling. BM violently targeted by shelling. 12:15, B3 shelled again. Non-essential personnel goes to a lower level, only leaving sentries on the surface blocks. The German shelling is now so heavy that the vibrations are felt inside the command post and control post of the fort 35 meters underground. Baptiste is also under heavy shelling. German spotter spotted in a farm near La Vieuse. BM fires 50 rounds that direction. 12:45, BM is ordered to target Hochberg again, where German gun positions still remain. Mortar blocks carry out the order despite being under heavy fire. 13:35, 2 hits from heavy German siege artillery are felt all the way to the command post and control office of the fort. B1 under heavy artillery fire again. 14:10, C3 is now under machine gun fire coming from the cemetery. German shelling suddenly stops. Everybody ordered to rush to the battle stations. German assault imminent. Mortar block ordered to fire 100 rounds all around the fort's perimeter. B1 gun turret ordered to fire on the cemetery around Block P to secure it. 14:15, German shelling restarts, but at a slower rate. Machine gun fires engaged one of the machine gun's cupolas. On B3, one of the rounds impact against the aiming reticle. The soldier in that position suffers cuts to the face caused by the flying glass shards. 14:25, B3 spotted a German gun position. BM fires 50 rounds in that direction. 14:38, German infantry assault on Block C2. C2 defends itself with machine gun fire, 47mm guns and grenades. Gun turrets on B2 tries to provide cover fire by firing grape shots. German guns engage machine gun cupola on Block B2 with direct fire. Both machine guns cupolas are evacuated, but the gun turret remains in action. C3 spots a lot of German infantry in the shell craters around the forts. Mortar blocks ordered to fire along the 3 sides of the fort. Explosions are felt inside the fort. The Germans are trying to breach Block C2, which keeps on defending itself. B3 reported smoke grenades being used by the Germans. At 14:55, German infantry seen trying to rush through the outer wall breach near C2. Ladders spotted. Also C2 resists. B1 fires grape shots in support. German infantry on the fort. This is the 22nd Infantry assault on the fort since May the 10th. All machine guns and guns still in working order are in action. The German suffers heavy losses. The fort will repulse 25 infantry assaults in total over the whole period of the siege. 14:56, Block C2 is breached. Explosive charges detonate against the block's searchlights and its 47mm gun. One Belgian soldier killed on the spot, crushed by the gun. Another is wounded. He will die in the fort's infirmary over the next day. The Germans use grenades and flamethrowers. The C2 is compromised. The survivors rush downstairs to 30 meters. The Germans are about to enter the block, and the fort should be compromised. The Belgians place a charge of 280 kilos of explosives at the bottom of the stairs leading to the coffer. Block C2. Seal the block's access with steel beams and sandbags. Close the armored doors and detonate the charge as German infantrymen start to make their way down the stairs. In a modern Belgian fort such as Aubin, each block was designed to be sealed off from the rest of the structure using steel beams and sandbags stocked with earth blocks, detonate them in such a need should ever occur. Explosive charges was kept inside the fort in the event the destruction of a block was necessary to avoid enemy penetrating inside the fort. The partial remains of the German soldiers who were caught in the explosion at the staircase have been found in the ruins of the block. They remain in their resting place. With the loss of C2, 2 out of the 3 sides of the moat are no longer protected. C2 was a double coffer, protecting 2 sides of the moat simultaneously. The Germans take advantage of the situation and rush onto the massif of the fort and attack the gun turrets and cupolas with flamethrowers and explosive charges. Distress calls to Baptiste. TC Inf. Baptiste opens fire on Aubin with his 120 and 75mm guns. The Germans are caught in the open and retreat. The German assault has been repulsed, but what the cost? At 15:23, gun turrets in Block B1 says the gun assembly shows serious signs of wear and tear. Despite that, the turret is ordered to fire shrapnel rounds on the fort's glasses. BP is under small arms fire. B3 loses one of its 3 machine gun cupolas. It is utterly destroyed and cannot provide any protection for the men inside. It is evacuated. Baptiste calls. They are detecting preparations for another assault on Aubin. Assault is confirmed and underway, requesting support from Baptiste. 120mm shrapnel and 60mm high explosive if possible. C1 is under assault but persists. German smoke grenades deployed. Mortar blocks open fire along the fort's perimeter. B1 gun turrets fire shrapnel over the massif. All battle stations ordered to fire at will. C1 ordered to fire its 47mm gun over the massif by ricochet. 15:45, German infantry spotted assembling near the Sart farm. Engaged by B1 gun turrets, 50 rounds of 75mm fired. Block P is under infantry assault. BM fires 75 rounds on the block to scatter the German attack. 16:10, enemy spotted on the roof of Block C2. Engaged by 25 rounds of shrapnel fired by B1. German assault. Baptiste is called for help once again. Gun turret B2 is out of order. The German assault teams placed shaped charges on the turret. While the shaped charges did not penetrate, they created enough damage that the gun could no longer be raised or eclipsed. The gun turret crew suffers burns to their hands and faces, but made it back down alive. The fort only has 1 gun turret with 1 gun remaining. 16:30, Block B3 is under attack. 1 soldier in B3 is wounded by shrapnel. The Germans are still engaging the rolling bridge and the casemates defending it with explosive charges and grenades. 16:48, Block B1 reports its gun is really worn out, and both its machine gun cupolas are obstructed by debris and rubble. Mortar block reports small cracks now visible on the concrete walls. The fort is bombed by Stukas. The vibrations are enough to cause leaks on the central heating pipes running alongside the galleries and corridors 35 meters below ground. 17:05, Block B3 is attacked once again, but still holding out. Both Block B3 and BP receives orders to resist an outrance till the end. B3 and BP are the fort's 2 entrances. 17:25, the Germans are still seen roaming around the fort and penetrating inside C2 again. They can't go as far as the staircase leading down to the corridor leading to it has been destroyed by the explosion of the charge. Distress calls sent to Baptiste. Aubin remaining 75mm gun inside the gun turret B1 is so worn out it barely works anymore. It is still used to try to repulse the Germans seen near C2. 1950 hours, Baptiste informed that Aubin lost its double coffer. The commandant thanks the Baptiste crew which saved the day. Today. 2200 hours. There is still some German activity observed around the fort. They are fired upon when detected. Engineers have ordered to repair whatever can be repaired. Crews inside the forts are requested to clean their quarters and combat blocks. Mortar block is back up and running at 100% with 3 mortars in working order. 2300 hours. BM fires 100 rounds of 81mm mortar around the fort's perimeter. The commandant congratulates the garrison for its defense of the fort. Soldiers are handed an extra ration at the canteen. Tuesday, the 21st of May, 1940. At midnight, B3 reports being shelled heavily. BM fires 181mm bombs on each side of the fort. 020, C3 reports hearing noises around the block. BM fires 25 rounds around C3 to secure it. C1, B1, and C3 are shelled. The engineers are trying to repair the B2 gun turret. It is still stuck halfway between eclipsed and raised position. At 1:05, both B1 and B2 gun turrets are shelled. At 05, the fort's chimneys are targeted, so are blocks B1 and C1. German infantry and a gun are located near the decoy fake cupola. BM engages them with 25 rounds of 81mm mortars. The German infantry then tries to dash to safety towards the ruins of the peacetime surface barracks. 10 rounds of 81mm fired at the ruins. Enemy neutralized. Request Baptiste to fire on our glasses to protect our perimeter. 0550. Smoke grenades in front of the C1 flanking coffer. The coffer fires at ground level with its machine gun and 47mm gun. A 37mm pack gun sighted near the Three Chimneys crossroad. C3 engages it with its 47mm gun. Baptiste calls. All their guns show sign of wear and tear. 0720. Infantry spotted around Block O, which is not occupied, but vital to the fort as it is one of the 2 air intake stations. BL fires 25 rounds on the block, which is also engaged with a machine gun from B3. 9:10. BM is shelled heavily. They cannot determine where they're targeted from. 0925. B2 machine gun cupolas engages German infantry spotted near C2 block. A large breach can be seen on the outer wall in front of C2. A smaller breach is visible in front of C1. 10:20. B3 spots German activity near the Three Chimneys crossroad. B1 fires 50 rounds of the 75mm in that direction. 10:31. The fort is being bombed by the Luftwaffe. 11:05. BP is attacked by infantry. BM and C3 fire on the block to protect it. 11:30. The engineers give up on the gun turret in B2. It cannot be repaired. Explosives are brought into place at the base of the B2 block. Charges are detonated, and the block is sealed. 11:50. Distress call sent to Baptiste. TC infantry. German assault ongoing. Baptiste fires on us, but his rate of fire is much slower than usual. German assault repulsed nevertheless. At C1 and B3, grenades are dropped into the grenade ramps at regular intervals to stop the Germans hiding in the moat from coming close to the blocks. 12:10. Harassing fire from the mortar block on Vidord Road, where the German activity has been spotted. B2 is assaulted by German infantry. B3 is under assault. You can see German bodies in front of the entrance from the casemate defending the bridge and main entrance. 12:15. BP shelled. None of its 2 observation cupolas can be used anymore. The block is only defended by 2 automatic rifles and casemates and grenades. A charge explodes on the air intake tube cap. The ventilation still works, but the tube is no longer protected, and the Germans drop explosives inside. Those charges explode inside the block. Ventilation is temporarily stopped to avoid contamination of the whole fort with smoke, dust, and powder. 12:20. The fort is bombed and shelled again. BO is too damaged and represents a risk as it is undefended and could be breached by the Germans. Charges are placed. The block is sealed and detonated. Order to prepare the destruction of B1 and BM if needed. 13:05. B1 fires shrapnel on the glasses. A lot of smoke is visible around the fort. 1310. Big explosion on mortar block. 2 out of 3 mortars can't be used as the embrasures are blocked by rubble. The mortar block has fired 5,260 rounds in 10 days, out of the 6,000 rounds supplied. 47mm cannon in C1 is running short of ammo. Distress call sent to Batiste. TC Inf. 1340. The last mortar in BM cannot be used anymore. Its tube is so worn out it misfires. 1347. Gun turret B1 is jammed and cannot be rotated anymore. 1420. Flanking coffer C1 is attacked with flamethrowers. Respond to the attack with grenades and automatic rifles. Its 47mm gun runs out of ammunition. 1425. B3 is attacked by flamethrowers. The situation is desperate. Batiste no longer answers calls for help. They are under heavy attack also. We send them a farewell telegram and thank them for their support. 1432. B3, C1, and C3 are still engaging enemies running on the glasses and inside the moat. BP is engaged with direct fire. C3 is running out of ammunition. 1440. B3 still holds. The rolling bridge has moved after a German charge was detonated in the block's postern. 50 centimeters of the bridge is now visible, enough for a man to run across. The defense board is convened. The commandant wants to fight to the end. He proposes that B3 be detonated and the steel beams of sandbags barraged to prepare inside the fort in advance of the tunnel fighting. The other officers do not approve. The fort is now almost 200 kilometers behind enemy lines. There is no chance of relief and no point of throwing away lives. They agree to keep on fighting until they cannot defend B3 anymore. B3 is attacked with flamethrowers again. A soldier is badly burned in the face when operating one of the grenade ramp flaps. A strong explosion is felt near the main doors. One of the double doors is damaged. The enemy cannot enter the block, as behind the double doors is steel beams and sandbag barraged. But another set and double doors as well. Grenades from the other blocks are brought up to B3. 1500. German Stukas in action. C1, B3 still holding. In the command center, all the radio and phone equipment is destroyed. Men are ordered to prepare to leave the fort. They are asked to take one change of clothes in their bag and are given chocolates, foods, and cigarettes. 1552. Another explosion near the main door at B3. The garrison is assembled in the barracks. The commander congratulates the men for their tenacity and their bravery. He asks them to trust him to defend their interests. Standing ovations. 2 of the 4 diesel engines are sabotaged. All handguns are thrown inside the diesel tanks. All rifles are disabled. The fort's paperwork is set on fire inside the chimney. All alcohol is destroyed. Diesel tanks are flushed into the sewer system. 1645. The last grenades have been used in B3. The fort cannot fight any longer. The commander goes into one of the machine gun cupolas and hoists a white flag through the periscope tube. The Germans cease fire. The door is opened, and a German officer helps the Belgian commandant climb over the steel beam barrage. He's informed that Colonel Rouge is on his way to negotiate with him. At 1700 hours, the colonel arrives and shakes the commandant's hand. The commandant says, "Colonel, the fort means of defense are all expended. Before carrying on a fight that can only be a desperate one, and because you have twice spoken to me about humanity for my garrison, I offer the surrender of the fort if all 3 of my requests are accepted." The condition offered by the Belgian commandant was a decent burial for the dead Belgian soldiers currently in the fort's morgue, that all the wounded are tended for, and 24 hours of rest in an outdoors for the garrison that had just fought so hard for all 11 days underground. Colonel Ruge answered, Commandant Aden, you have been loyal and chivalrous adversary. All your conditions are accepted. At 17:30, the German General Koma arrives on the site with his staff. He hands over Commandant Aden's his officer's sword back. He will be allowed to bear it in captivity as a sign of his bravery in combat. The garrison is authorized to come out of the fort in formation and bearing arms. The German troops are lined up on the outer wall on both sides of the block's entrance to honor the garrison. The Belgian flag is only lowered when the last Belgian soldier has left the fort. The garrison is then disarmed and led away toward a farm in Losange, where they will be allowed to rest for 24 hours. Colonel Hug will honor all three of his promises. That was the end of the war for Fort Aubin and its garrison. Baptiste will surrender honorably the following day on the 22nd of May 1940. 7 days later, Belgium surrenders. A day later, the last Belgian fort, Tancremont, finally surrenders after 19 days of combat. So much for it being an easy pushover fight. Now I apologize for having butchered every name I could possibly find in the battle log. Over the next 2 episodes, we are going to go through this amazing place and see where they fought so bravely. Hope you'll join me there. And on the last day, we're going to have the current commander of the fort, or the CEO of the Aubin Association, show us around his museum. Behind me is Vanna von Bauern's first test stand. Down the road is Diebner's nuclear reactor. Over there is the Maginot Line and all its amazing forts. I'm visiting them all and I'm bringing them to you. So I really appreciate you like, follow, and share what I'm doing, trying to document all these important historical locations. And if you feel like you want to watch more pictures or documents that I use for these, go to lostbattlefields.com. And if you feel like helping me out with my travels, because gasoline and travel and airfare is expensive, my PayPal is there, protectionserviceint.com. You are more than welcome, but you don't have to. I appreciate all your support and all your help, and I love seeing these locations, and I love bringing them to you.